Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. We're going to start our November the 20th meeting. We'll have invocation. I read one here at Reverend Barbara Bay. She here? Would you say the prayer for us, invocation up at the podium? We have the invocation by Reverend Barbara Bay. Then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Forster. Then the roll call, and then we'll get into the meeting. Please stand. Take your time.
Good evening.
Even.
Let us bow. God of heaven and God of earth, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. God, we are so grateful for where you have brought us from. You've brought us from a mighty long ways. And God, you have allowed us to see a better day. Therefore, we want to say thank you. Heavenly Father, we invoke your presence tonight. Guide and direct everything that will be said or done, so that when this evening is over, honor will be restored. And we bless your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Grogan?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson? Present. Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Firstner?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right. We're going to start with have a proclamation, a couple proclamations. The first one's going to be Orlando Health Central Hospital, 100-year anniversary. We have, how many people we got from the hospital here? When I get through reading it, I'll let you, all of you come up and we'll get a picture and hand you the proclamation. And I'll let you introduce everybody. Mark. All right. Whereas Orlando Health began serving the Central Florida community on November the 5th, 1918 as Orange General Hospital. And whereas Orlando General continues to uphold its mission, Orlando Health, to uphold its mission to improve the health and quality of life of the individuals and communities we serve. And whereas Orlando Health has grown from a single hospital to a healthcare system of 9 wholly owned or affiliated hospitals composed of specialty hospitals dedicated to children, women, and babies, a cancer center of excellence, a territory safety net hospital with the area's only level 1 trauma center for adults and pediatrics, and long-standing community hospitals including Orlando Health Central Hospital in Ocoee, Florida. And whereas Orlando Health Central's commitment, attitude, and actions reflect more than 65 years of service to its surrounding communities and neighbors. And whereas Orlando Health Central staff made up nearly 1,500 team members and over 500 physicians, coupled with the most advanced equipment and technology, ensures that every patient receives the safe, quality, and personalized care they deserve. And whereas Orlando Health Central is a proud member of the Orlando Health family of hospitals, constantly working to deliver the highest quality health care services and continually evolving to meet the needs of the growing West Orange community they serve, including offering Orlando Health UF Health Cancer Center services and opening new Orlando Health Emergency Room and Medical Pavilion, Horizons West. And whereas the true value of Orlando Health in our community goes beyond its facility walls to include providing nearly $451 million in support of community health needs in 2017 and collaborating with more than 230 not-for-profit community partners. And whereas Orlando Health contributes to the local economy as one of Central Florida's largest employers with over 20,000 team members. And whereas Orlando Health will celebrate 100 years of caring on November 5th, 2018, and is eager to begin the next 100 years and start a new century. Now therefore, the Ocoee City Commission does hereby recognize and proclaim this 5th day of November 2018 as Orlando Health Central Hospital 100 Years of Caring Day. In witness whereof, I hereto set upon my hand and cause the seal of the city of Ocoee, Florida, to be affixed this 20th day of November 2018. Rusty Johnson, Mayor. Just a quick say, I don't know how many of you here has been to the hospital, but 13 years ago they saved my life. I had what they call the widowmaker in the heart thing, and they found it at this hospital and sent me to Orlando to the other hospital, and I had surgery 13 years ago, open heart. So I thank you a lot. So appreciate your service. Come on down and we'll let you. I'm gonna let the head man announce everybody. Come on up here and meet somebody.
Good evening. My name is Mark Marsh. I'm the president at Orlando Health Central at the campus here. And two of my colleagues here, Rick Smith is our chief operating officer at Health Central, and Rachel Cobb. Rachel Cobb is one of our leaders in our government relations field that represents all of Orlando Health. So just want to say on behalf of Orlando Health Central, Mayor, all the commissioners, we certainly value and appreciate the partnership with the city of Ocoee. Without your support and just continual efforts, we wouldn't be what we are today. And so we're excited what we've achieved in the 100 years with Orlando Health here in the Ocoee market since 1993, the new facility at the Health Central. But as you referenced, we really look forward to continue to find better ways to meet the needs and serving those patients and communities all throughout both Ocoee and West Orange. But certainly an honor. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And once again, thank you for your support in the community. So thank you for this evening.
We're gonna get to the proclamation. But before I do that, I'm gonna step up to the podium and read off some stuff out. I wrote it, tried to get it wrote down where I could get my thoughts together. So it's kind of a little anxious tonight. So I'm gonna read this off, then I'll come back up here and we'll get busy with the proclamation. As mayor of a town of approximately 45,000 citizens in the metro area of Orlando, Florida, I have many thoughts about the events taking place tonight. I have been an elected official for over 30 years in the city of Ocoee, and I am very proud to have watched the city grow from a dusty little citrus town into a modern suburb and center of economic development. I have also been very active in youth sports in the community and have coached on several governing teams and served on governing boards for our Pop Warner Little League, served at the JC, served in the Lions Club, and was active in our high school and our junior highs. Having spent most of my life here, I can tell you that the type of thinking that led to tragic events during the dark period in American history died out in Ocoee 2 generations ago. I am very proud to say that we have a very diverse town and a very diverse workforce. This city has done a lot to promote diversity, but as an old-time Ocoee resident, I believe that one of the big reasons that we have so few issues now is that Ocoee is a place where family is still valued in America. I am very proud to be able to say that my children and my grandchildren give no thought to the color, race, gender, or religion of their fellow citizens. They just say friend, or this guy, or this person. It's not just the Johnson family that is like that, though. With all of the events I attend, from sporting events to our annual Easter, Christmas activities, I see families everywhere talking, laughing, and getting along, without a thought about race, gender, or religion. That is also why our city is so stable and growing, because it is a great place to raise a family. I am very happy to report that our city boasts the highest growth of diversity in West Orange County, and we are very proud of our municipal identity. All of that said, we are about to approve a proclamation that commemorates this dark period in history that affected our city. It is tragic to think that there were those who actually devalued other humans because of their skin color back in those days. Having been raised as a Southern Baptist, I have a very strong belief in what the Bible teaches about equality. Acts 10:34 says that God does not show favoritism. Unfortunately, many who've gone before did and made tragic mistakes. Romans 3:23 says that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. I will tell you that one of the reasons I'm here today is that I care about this cause, and I feel very strongly that everything we do to commemorate this issue should be done with the utmost accuracy and in care in order to give it permanent identity while preserving and highlighting how far we've come. I have been very vocal about making sure that is what is reported is accurate and confirmed here. One of my closest friends and a former mayor was the late Lester Dabbs, who actually did his master's thesis on the events during the 1920s in Ocoee. We owe it to the lives lost and their families to portray accurate information in everything we do. And we'll discuss Lester Dabbs a little bit more down the way. Bill Maxwell will talk about Lester in the group. One of the things that have always been impressed upon me from Dr. Martin Luther King's famous letters from a Birmingham jail to his fellow clergymen was the simple truth that we are all equal in God's eyes. While I'm always moved by the discussion of the tragedies during the time period, I am equally moved when I sit at the Little League field watching little children play that have no care whatsoever about what race, gender, or religion their teammates are. That starts at home, and that is what has helped Ocoee leave its past in the past. We are pleased to be working with local and state historians to create accurate language that memorizes what happened in Ocoee, and hopefully it will be displayed in our way on our campus that will allow for reflection on the past, as well as affirmation in who we are now. Hebrews 11-1 says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I am asking you all to please have faith that we are moving steadily, strongly in the right direction. All right, now we're going to do the proclamation. Proclamations, I had made a statement that we vote on, but we really don't vote on it, but I'm going to do something different tonight. I'm going to ask for a vote of the commission. Need them.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to vote on the proclamation as written.
I second it.
Commissioner Grogan, who seconded? Commissioner Oliver seconded. I will say that that's different than what we usually do. We can do this and I sign it, seal it, we don't have to vote. But I thought it was a good way that everybody understands that everybody up here is part of it. All right? All right, let's vote. All right, now I'm gonna read it.
Yeah,
Do we, what? Now we gotta do it again? Do it again, I'm sorry.
I can't.
Mayor?
You got to vote too, Mayor.
Oh, and not vote? A napkin is in the way. Hey, we have some speaker things here, but first I'd like to read this proclamation, but I'm gonna do something different. I'm not gonna read it. I want Bill Maxwell to come up and read it at the podium. Bill was involved in this since 1989 with Mayor Lester Dabbs, and Lester Dabbs, who was my civics teacher in high school. So I will ask Mr. Maxwell to come up and take this up at the podium and read it.
I'm William Maxwell, a 23-year resident of the city of Ocoee. And I must tell you that this is an unexpected pleasure. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Thank you, commissioners. Bear with me if I tend to become a bit emotional. Proclamation. Whereas the city of Ocoee is dedicated to cultural diversity and the ability for all citizens to exercise their right to vote, and whereas the historical record clearly shows that African American residents of West Orange County in and around what later became the city of Ocoee were grievously denied their civil rights, their properties, and their very lives in a series of unlawful acts perpetrated by a white mob and governmental officials on November 2nd, 1920. And the following weeks simply became because they tried to vote, as any eligible citizen should be able to do, including such prominent local leaders as Moses Norman and Julius Perry. And whereas the historical record also reveals that no African American persons resided in the city of Ocoee for the following 60 years, leading to the area being referred to as a sundown city. And whereas the city of Ocoee seeks to express its regret and horror at the events of the November 1920, while recognizing the more recent efforts of local leaders and citizens of all cultures to create a diverse community open to all residents and visitors. And whereas the population of the city is now highly diverse, Sunrise City, with African Americans being a large portion of the population, and whereas the city opposes all efforts to divide its citizens on the basis of color, creed, religion, national origin, cultural or political beliefs, and whereas the city believes that remembering and honoring those individuals who were killed, injured, driven from their homes, and had their property taken from them is a core requirement for ensuring that such acts do not occur again. And whereas the city's Human Relations Diversity Board has developed language for a historic marker describing the events of November 1920 and the city's efforts to change the community culture that allowed and encouraged those atrocities. And whereas the City Commission of the City of Ocoee has the desire and authority to erect such a marker in a public place so that all visitors may recall and consider the events of November 1920 and jointly vow to never allow such a cultural divide to exist in the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Ocoee that the city shall erect a suitable historical marker in a public space that will describe the tragic events of November 1920. That November 2nd shall be declared a day of remembrance for those residents of Ocoee and West Orange County who lost their lives and property through an act of domestic terror, and that any future public cultural event held by the city during the first week of November shall acknowledge the terrible events of November 1920 that sought to disenfranchise a group of citizens and shall emphasize the community's need for cultural diversity. Let it be known that Ocoee shall no longer be the sundown city, but the sunrise city, with the bright light of harmony, justice, and prosperity shining upon all our citizens. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Ocoee, Florida, to be affixed this 20th day of November 2018. Rusty Johnson, Mayor.
While you're up there, Bill, I'm gonna have the diversity board, our present diversity board, come up to the podium with Bill, where you can take over for a few minutes. Then I'll let Mr. Maxwell has a little talk he wants to do at the end about our prior, starting in 1989. 1989 with our first diversity park.
Nicole? Nicole? Give us a few moments of emotional relief. And while they are reconciling themselves, I would say to you there in the audience, lift every voice and sing. Till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as high as the listening skies. Let it resound as loud as the rolling sea. James Weldon Johnson. Nicole?
Just a quick comment while Mr. Maxwell and the ladies get themselves composed there. I want to say one more thing. Mr. Dabbs's family's here. Stand, Adam, you stand up, you and Wally. Her father was an amazing person. He, first of all, he kept me from quitting high school. I was going to quit, and he said, "No, you're not." So that was the main thing. He got me back online. But I will tell you, he was a man of foresight and forethought. I don't know if anybody could have stood in Ocoee, Florida back in the early 60s and stood and said what he said. He didn't have any qualms or any problems doing what he knew was right. And that's where I think some of my thoughts and process come over the years, just thinking back to Mr. Dabbs. But he fought through it and kept moving and started this thing. People say we haven't been doing it, folks. We've been doing this for 29 years. And it's taken a long time to get there, but that's what happens a lot. But we're there, and we're getting further on down the road with this. But I just want you to know, and Miss Dabbs is not able to come tonight, and I really know she went through a lot of stuff over this, and your family has been a big part of our city. And thank you.
Good evening. I am Nicole Dawkins, the current chair for the HRDB, Human Relations Diversity Board, but I don't stand here alone by any stretch of the imagination. Past Chairman Major Maxwell, we have past Chairman Dr. Kathleen Crown, And I just want to acknowledge the other board members who have put in countless hours. And it is true. If you are not going to devote the time and the hours to change, you don't deserve to speak. But when you have it in your heart that great things can happen, and you're ready to put your hands to that great thing, that's when things start to happen. So just thanking the Human Relations Diversity Board, all the hours grading essays and all the hours at the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade, which I have always joked with them that I will quit every year after I do that because of the countless hours. But my word, it's worth it. It was worth it to see where we are today. It is worth it to have the city doing what they are doing right now. This is beyond historic. This is our heart at the board. And I want to recognize just the board members for them to stand up. And if you're here, is Paul here? Member Paul Hershaw, just to give his name, he's put in so many hours. Member Rhonda Anderson Robinson, please stand. Member Billie Jean Daly. Member Lori Hart. Member Travis Brown. Member Sandria Foster. Member Ira Calloway. Member William Maxwell, myself, Nicole Dawkins, and Member Crown. So just want to say a thank you and give you a hand clap. We did it.
Bill, you gonna, sometimes we have to put a leash on Bill. He likes to talk a lot. We'll hold him back just a minute, let Dr. Crown say something.
I just wanted to thank all of you for coming tonight. This is a big deal. And in all the meetings I've sat in with everybody else, and all the arguments we've had, and all the tensions that this has drawn up, we did it. And it's for all of us, because this is our city. We are proud to live in the city of Ocoee. Thank you.
You want me to start? You want me to start?
You started the timer on me, okay, so I'm
I was
gonna
just gonna say,
run really fast.
I got some
in
other
this.
people want to talk, Bill.
And what I really want to do is say thank you, commissioners, Mayor Johnson and staff, because without your allocation of the resources to accomplish these objectives, nothing would have been accomplished. From that point, we've recognized the Dabb family. I want to direct your attention, folks, to the line of pictures that are on the wall. If you'll note, the very first one is Mayor Fred McGuire. And it goes on along for 13 regimes of administrative actions to Lester Dabbs. The Dabbs family has been recognized. Lester Dabbs, along with a group of West Orange businessmen in 1989, organized and created an organization called the West Orange Reconciliation Task Force. And those individuals were dedicated to the purpose of bringing about reconciliation and equality of all people within the community. And I want to take just a second, if I may, sir, and just kind of address that. They wanted to tell the story of what had happened in 1920. They wanted to honor the memory of the individuals, those fallen individuals whose lives had been taken. They felt that the wound should be healed. And the only way this could be done was through the process of a total recognition of what had taken place. And they believed if this was accomplished, that this would be an enhancement to economic development within this West Orange community and specifically within the city of Ocoee. Well, they received opposition, and no disrespect for any of the elected officials that are depicted here on the wall, but folks, I want to tell you that a span of time chronologically expired of 66 years from the date that the first mayor was elected up until yesterday. There had been no positive indication to do anything to acknowledge the atrocities and the terrorism that had existed in this city. Think about it. 66 years. And then came Dabbs, Mayor Vandergrift. Mayor Vandergrift did a lot of great things for the city, but he just kind of went with the flow. And guess what? Our elected official, Rusty Johnson, if I may call you Rusty, sir,
You called me worse than that?
took the mantle of leadership on 17 April this year. Think about it. 17 April this year. Mayor wasn't on board with this initially because, and I'm going to tell the story, because there were those outsiders who had insisted that due to, based on empirical research and articles that we've read in the newspapers, 31 people, or a quantification of African American lives could be posted as a number because it made the article sound more authentic. And our mayor stood up and looked adversity in the face and said, I will not accept that. If you can show me proof of it, I'll go along with it. There are some of you sitting in the room who heard him say it, along with myself. So, in order to convince himself, he came along with us in Montgomery, on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of April this year, and observed and participated in the unveiling of a national memorial in Montgomery, honoring and looking upon the atrocities of slavery and all of the evils that went along with it at the unveiling of a national memorial. He still wasn't convinced. So, being the guy that he is, he took 4 of us along with himself, and he drove us along the Civil Rights Trail from Montgomery to Selma. Most guys would do it from Selma to Montgomery, but our mayor has his own way. And we went to Selma. Well, you know what was so satisfying about that? I'm just an Alabama boy born in the cotton fields. I was born on the Civil Rights Trail. And I saw a change take place in this gentleman that was uncommonly seen. We goaded him. I chose to ride in the back of the vehicle all the way. Because I had never had the opportunity in all of my years of existence and living in the times that I'd traversed the Montgomery-Selma Trail to have a mayor of a city, a white boy from South Carolina, let me sit in the back of a $50,000 vehicle and goad him as he drove us along. But he had an even more dynamic purpose, because along that way, the life of the Michigan housewife that was taken in the 1965 effort by KKK members, he stopped there. And I didn't understand the ingenious of what he was doing. But we formulated a plan there with an effort that this is what our memorial could possibly be made like in Orlando, in Ocoee. We studied it for 30 minutes and we drove on westward to Selma. We stood with the bust of John Lewis and with all of the civil rights marches that were there. Then we crossed over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And he walked in to the Interpretive Center in Selma, Alabama. And he walked to the heads-up display that showed what happened on the bridge that Sunday. And I truly believe, sir, that this was a changing moment. As a behaviorist and one who observes human behavior, I made an assessment of body languages. And I believe that this was a turning point in our mayor's life, that when he came away from that, when he had on the night before sat and listened to John Lewis, who at 23 years of age had his skull fractured on that bridge in support of the right of African Americans and people everywhere to vote. When he saw those things and we drove back, it was a rather serene return trip to Montgomery. But Mayor, this, sir, was your acceptance of the mantle of leadership that has brought us to this moment. And I commend you. And I want to say that this is a culmination of a decade of very strenuous effort. I thank all of you for being here and being a part of it. I thank the leadership of our city for giving us a platform from which to build. And I say to all of you here in the community, this is not the accomplishment of the end result or objective. This is the platform on which we're going to stand and begin to build. I thank you kindly.
Bill, I'm going to ask the commission if we can take, you can pass that around. I would pass it around. I'm going to ask the commission and the city manager, can we have that put in the halls of the city hall? And we'll keep it out in the halls of City Hall. We're going to get a new City Hall, and when we move to the new City Hall, we will move it there. So that was an enlightening trip. I will tell you that I've always had the right thoughts, I think. I just need a little pride in my bill and these young ladies. I did find out some other things on that trip, too, about people, but I won't say it. But it's an amazing thing, if anybody has time, to go to Montgomery, Alabama, and go to that monument there. It will bring tears to your eyes and make you wonder what the world and how the world people could act that way and do that kind of stuff. So if you ever get a chance, go to Montgomery, Alabama, and the trip to Selma. But when we got there, I thought they were going to have a roadblock because they heard Bill was coming back. But we made it, and got there and got back. So I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. I've got some speakers forms here. I'm gonna let you come up and speak. Try to make it where we can get through and go out and have a donut or a piece of sandwich outside. I'm gonna let you read these off. It's first one to be Francina. Is it Francina Boykin? Boyan? Okay. Come on up to the podium and give us your name and address.
Well, to Mayor Rusty Johnson, other commissioners, all who are present here tonight. 21 years ago, I was asked to join a group who was researching an incident that occurred in Ocoee. Growing up in Apopka, Florida, I had never heard anyone talk about, or if they did, it wasn't clear about what happened in Ocoee on November the 2nd, 1920, even though people were living among us. I won't forget the day, it was a Saturday afternoon, very sunny, at Borders Books. After almost a year and a half to 2 years of extensive meetings and research, each member of our group, the Democracy Forum, had a task. That task was to go over the census list of residents who lived in Ocoee during 1910, 1920. And the question came, where are these people? What happened to them? I, previously to that time, had wandered in Ocoee, right here in this building, and asked, where are the black people buried that got killed? No one could answer that question. Many of you do not know Walt Disney World was born here in Ocoee. Walt Disney himself planned Disney World here at the local hotel. But getting back to that day at Borders Books, because prior to our unveiling of our research, the key pieces of evidence was the death certificate of July Perry, of which I purchased at Vital Statistics in Jacksonville, Florida. When I obtained the death certificate, it said he was buried in Greenwood Cemetery. And I said to my friend and our founder of Democracy Forum, Curtis Michelson, I said, we'll never find him. I says, this cemetery is probably no longer in existence. Lo and behold, I get a call one morning from Curtis. He said, guess what, Francina? I'm here at Greenwood Cemetery. I said, you're kidding me. He said, guess who I found? I found July Perry's grave. I says, I don't believe it. So I rushed downtown and met Curtis at Greenwood Cemetery, and the caretaker had the map, handed us the card, and took us to July Perry's burial site. But that day at Borders Books, I began to question myself because people were saying to me, you must be out of your mind over there fooling around in Ocoee. You're going to get yourself in trouble. And so I made it to Borders Books before any of my group arrived, and I sat nervously in the corner questioning myself, what did I get into? I see Mayor Vandegrift storms in, and I'm like, oh no. My heart began to sink. I said, but we're here now, we're on. So we unveiled our research that day. And, you know, this is a marked difference from what we had that day in people who were present, because a lot of people just weren't going to talk about it. We located descendants. One family in particular, the Hickey family, who lived in Apopka, who owned 120 acres. And I began to ask questions, and more people opened up to speak. So this is a very special occasion for me, especially. And the man who set off this movement was an Otis McCaster, who came to Curtis Michelson saying that he had accepted a job at a radio station here. And he says every night, 3 nights, he came into Ocoee because he had to drive off the highway down into a dark road. I just met Otis McCaster a few months ago. And he said, I call it a heightened fear. So Otis did not return to his job, so that kind of upset Curtis. Why didn't you get you this good job and you gonna quit? Otis says, no, I'm not going back to Ocoee because I heard some bad things happen there. So if you're here tonight, you're here because of people like Otis, who thought enough to go back and tell someone why he didn't want to be here, and it set off a movement that has got us here tonight. I am so grateful, I am so thankful, and it's been countless hours of research that has been spent, going back as far as Zora Neale Hurston, who wrote about the riot in 1920, but it was not published until 1987. So in Lester Dabbs, I won't forget that night, and I'm gonna close out. The night after the unveiling of our research, Mrs. Hubbard called me. She was Lester's sister. She was my English teacher, and I guess Lester didn't know me very well. So Lester called and said, this girl from Apopka, she's over here in Ocoee. So Mrs. Hubbard called me that night. She said, Francina, what are you up to? I said, well, nothing. She said, oh, yes, you are, too. I heard you was in Ocoee today. I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble now because I still respected Mrs. Hubbard. But I am so thankful tonight and such a privilege to be taking part of this historical moment. And Mayor Johnson, God bless you and keep you and all of you and everybody who's present here tonight. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Hubbard is Lester's sister, and she was also my teacher's my sister's teacher, too. So Pam Grady.
Well, hello, everybody. I want to first of all say, in addition to everybody else saying thank you, I want to say thank you to the mayor and to everybody that preceded me in trying to, bring about a change in Ocoee. I am a resident of Ocoee, and I'm also a business owner in Ocoee, and I love Ocoee. I want to say that. When I first moved here in 2011, I felt this place was a wonderful place to be, and there's a nice energy about Ocoee that I find very refreshing. What I wanted to bring about today, or was anything I was saying about this event that happened, was awareness. I moved here in 2011, and it wasn't until 2 years ago that I even found out about what happened, in 1920. And I feel that residents don't know that, and I'm happy to see that with this proclamation. The best way to invoke positive healing is for the truth to be known and spoken out loud. You have to have the truth as be spoken, and the road to healing starts with acknowledgement. And this proclamation does that, and it helps us acknowledge our past, so we can say this is where we've come from, and this is now where we are here. We are here. It's much different now, and we have a long way to go in the road to complete unity and equality for all. And I thank you, Mayor, and everybody else that came before me, everybody else that knew about it back in 1986 and all that. I wasn't either, and I didn't know about it. I found out about it 2 years ago, and I see that you guys have all done a great job, and I really appreciate what's going on today, and I just want to say thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Short and
Thank
simple.
you, ma'am. Sharon Cooley McWhite.
Good evening. We have come this far by faith. Again, we have come this far by faith. A change will come. A change has come. We are here at this very hour, and we are part of the change. We, the descendants of the Thomas Perry, who was the older brother of July Perry, would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to the leaders of the city of Ocoee, Florida, for your consideration and this horrific event that took place in your city some 98 years ago. Again, we say thank you. My grandmother, Katie Baker Perry, told me of a tragedy as I grew up during the early 1960s. The Perry family left South Carolina for Florida in the late 1800s, seeking a better life for themselves and their family. To avoid contact at that time with the Klan and other hateful people, they walked along the railroad. Their mother passed along the way, and they first settled in a small town east of Tallahassee, Florida. There were 3 boys, Thomas, Andrew, and July. All 3 left this small town. Thomas and Andrew came to Lake City, Florida, and Lake City, Florida is my hometown. And July decided to go further south and made his home here in the city of Ocoee, Florida. Thomas and Andrew became farmers and craftsmen in Lake City. There is a church standing today, Olivet Missionary Baptist Church, where I am a member of to the day that I shall die. That church was built by the Perry boys. And July was a producer working here in the orange groves. My grandmother told me of the day that Thomas and Andrew learned the death of their brother July. It was 11 days after his death that law enforcement knocked on that door and told my granddad that his brother was dead. They did not tell him how he died, only that he was dead, and they should not come to the city of Ocoee, Florida. Should not. 11 days after his death. This news devastated our family. My granddaddy never got over this death. They later learned that July Perry was lynched because he was encouraging blacks, which I say African Americans, to vote. We realize that we cannot change what has taken place and the actions of those that are responsible 98 years ago. But however, to first accept that it did happen and the city of Ocoee issues a formal apology would help bring closure to the family for this horrific event. I, Sharon Cooley McWhite, is the great-great-niece of the late July Perry, and I am a resident of Orange County, Florida. So I say to you this evening, thank you to the leaders of the city of Ocoee, to the residents and the community, and all of you that are here. Embrace change. Change will come. Change has come. So you leave this place this evening with a smile on your face as I smile for each and every one of you this evening. I love you, and on behalf of the Perry family, I say thank you. Good evening.
Sergeant Paul. Jonathan Sebastian Blunt. Blount, I'm sorry.
I've had the privilege in my lifetime of being a part of history and also witnessing history. I am the conceptual founder of the largest magazine for black women in the world, Essence. We have 8 million readers a month. And I've got to tell you that when I came to Orlando in 1992, it certainly was not the Orlando of today. And I was very, very active and engaged with advocating for change. And along with some other of the great citizens, we marched and we demonstrated, cut us in, don't cut us out. And I became known as a troublemaker, one of these northern carpetbagging troublemakers. And the city of Orlando and its fathers and mothers at that time had an interesting reception for me. I remember driving around at that time in my Lamborghini, and I was stopped by the police, and they reached into my glove compartment, and one of the officers said, "Oh, boy, he's smoking them Cohiba cigars." And the other police officer said, "Don't look like no Cohiba to me. That looks like marijuana to me," and I landed up in jail. And I became a political prisoner, and it was very interesting that my first introduction to Ocoee came during that stint in jail. In one of our human relations and interaction classes, I got introduced to some Ocoee residents. And it was real interesting because I would always go and sit with the white boys on the other side of the room, and we became very, very facile in our discussions. So my first introduction to Ocoee was after me telling them about my background, growing up in a little small town like Ocoee, Monroe, North Carolina, population 10,000, including livestock. we had running gun battles with the Ku Klux Klan, and we marched and we demonstrated for our rights. And fortunately, unlike July, we survived. But when he got up to tell me about Ocoee, he said, "You think you've been through something? Let me tell you about Ocoee." And I remember, this is 1992. And he said, "In Ocoee," and I quote, "we got a sign that say, 'Nigga, don't let the sun down catch you here in town.'" He said, and I don't know about the authenticity of this, but he said, "There's a rope hanging in a tree in the middle of town to let you know what's going to happen to you if we catch you there." And so, needless to say, for a very, very long time, Ocoee was not a place that I would ever come to. But I'm very, very honored tonight to be here in this room and to authenticate the dynamics of the change of heart and spirit. And being a founder of a multinational company and not getting a lot of acknowledgement for that, I want to specifically thank Pam Grady and Jay Carr and Larry Brinson, and their prevail on Dan Newland to help to bring about the petition that made this incredible event possible. And so I stand here with great honor and great humility to acknowledge and to thank the city of Ocoee, and especially you, Mayor, for the leadership that you all have displayed. And I have been a part of history before, and I wanted to be a part of history tonight. And thank you for allowing me to come and share this great moment and event.
I will say I hope that guy's still in jail. He needs to be there. I will say that I've lived here since 1955. I asked my father-in-law, I've never seen that, and I've been here since 1955. Whether or not it was there before those days, I couldn't tell you, but it hasn't been since 1955. And if it would have been tore down, I promise you. So, Reverend Barbara Bay. You want us to bring the mic to you? That's okay. All right. Here we go. We'll get wrapped up. All right.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor Johnson, Commissioners, Commissioner, my diaconate Oliver, who is the Commissioner. My name is Barbara Bay. I'm a retired educator, and I'm in ministry at the New Covenant Baptist Church of Orlando, Florida, where Reverend Leroy Rose III is my pastor. And my last name is spelled B-E-Y. I am a descendant of the Thornton Sims family. And from the time I was about 5 or 6 years old, I knew the horrible tragedy that happened to my grandfather because they told me and said, tell the story. I accept your apology. And I want to tell you thank you, because the book of Matthew lets us know that if we want God's forgiveness, we too have to forgive. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad that the Lord has allowed me to live long enough to see it happen. In the early 1970s, as a fresh graduate from Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, I became employed with the Orange County school system, and I knew Lester Dabbs. He was one of my colleagues. And my first teaching assignment was at Ocoee Junior Senior High School. I don't know if there's anybody here I taught or not, but I taught there for a year. And that year, the Ku Klux Klan came on our campus. And I was able to keep my children from getting killed because they wanted to confront them. They were very angry. And I was angry too, but I said, we don't win this way. And I couldn't believe that I found myself in Ocoee, because I had said I would never set my foot in Ocoee, because as a kid, I remember seeing that rope and that sign at the corner of Bluefoot and West Colonia Drive. No, it's not what anybody told me, it's what I saw. Because we would be going to Oakland, Florida, and Tildenville, Florida, where we had some relatives who used to live in Ocoee, and I was told that they had to run through the swamp to get away. My grandmother and her 8 children running for their lives. My grandfather did not leave. He said, I'm going to die. He said, but I'm going to take some of them with me. So he left this legacy. My aunt told me that when we look back in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and Ocoee, Florida in 1920, they were just 2 of the small, successful black communities that was bombed. Oklahoma City was bombed from the air. Some of you may not know that. And Ocoee was burned from the ground, and people were hanged, and their bodies mutilated by some evil folks. My auntie told me, my father didn't want to talk about it, and my uncles, that my grandmother Pearl, they had to run for their lives through the muddy swamps. Some of them went to Tildenville. My grandmother went to Orlando, because we have a history in our family of church builders too, Sharon. My grandfather, I was told, was the first pastor of the St. John's Missionary Baptist Church that used to be located at the corner of Easy Street and Carter Street, that was torn down when they built the East-West Expressway. And they said that he was a master carpenter, and he built most of that building along with the parishioners of his church. Well, in the 1920s, most black people were Republicans, if you all didn't know that. And my grandfather, I'm told, gave the members of his church the $2 poll tax that they had to pay in order to vote. And he was calling uppity in. And I guess that uppiness probably is still flowing through my bones, because I've been called that too. My grandfather stayed and he fought and he died. He left a legacy to his offspring that we were to fight for justice, get the best education that we could, and it was important that we vote. And I'm not a person to get upset easily, but I get real upset with people who don't vote. Get real upset with people who don't vote, because my grandfather's blood cries out from wherever his remains are. We never knew, but it cries out. The events of 1920 shaped my life. I believe in education. I've earned 3 degrees. I'm also a social scientist by training. History in the study of the history of the United States and Florida, and a political scientist, because I believe you need the tools to fight. Education is a great tool. I've told my children, and I've told my children's children, one of my twins is with me tonight, who's named after my father, David. So I thank you, Mayor. It may have been a struggle, but you made it. The Bible tells us that God will reward you for pressing. So we are here tonight to see the beginning of this change movement that my colleague Sharon talked about, and we are glad. We're glad about it. I've given my life to the fight for civil rights. I'm still a fighter. I'll tell you a little story that makes my heart glad. When Barack Obama was running for president, I worked in both of his campaigns, and I'm physically challenged. I've been this way for a number of years. And the second time he was running for office, I had surgery scheduled for the Monday before election. So I called my doctor and I said to him, can I reschedule my surgery? He said, Miss Bay, don't you know we need to know as soon as possible if you have cancer? I said, can I delay this surgery until after I get President Obama reelected to office? So we rescheduled the surgery for the following Monday, because that Tuesday I had an assignment. I had to encourage and push people in care. How I did it, to make sure that they got to the polls to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This last one I have here is a gentleman that also went with us to Montgomery, Alabama. I'll tell you, that trip was enlightening and enriching, but also I think people find out about people when you're with each other and you're spending time, and you can get to know people more than what they think. It changes your whole outlook on life, and I think they find out about different things when you can talk to people. Like Mr. Maxwell said, I think you can see things and find things in people's heart, and that comes out. Mr. Bracewell.
Good evening. My name is Alec Braswell, and I had the privilege of traveling with the Human Resource Diversity Board and Mayor Johnson. Good evening, commissioners. And we talked about this, and I got to know the man, Rusty Johnson. I got to know Bill Maxwell. I got to spend time with these lovely ladies right here. But what was most moving was the dedication and the sincerity to make a difference and to come back and embrace that. When we stood at the monument for the woman from Michigan and we read the inscription, I turned to the mayor and I said simply, sir, everybody keeps trying to put July Perry to bed. But if you would step out and be that first responder and lay him to rest, honor what has been done, recognize it, acknowledge it, and move forward, you'll change Ocoee. We talked about moving from a sundown town to a sunrise city. I got to know Rusty Johnson, and many people don't know Rusty Johnson. They may see the hard exterior and the gruffness. That's him. But I got to know the mayor, and I just wanted to come and say to the city of Ocoee, what an incredible step you've taken in setting things right. As the Human Resource Diversity Board pressed upon me, and I had a chance to meet with them afterwards, they really brought it home. Not only do we have to set things right, but we have to heal the wound. We took steps towards the Perry family to make sure we started to heal the wound. In my capacity of several roles that I've held in Orange County, just a little bit of my history. I was born in Sanford Memorial Hospital, which is now the Community Redevelopment Agency for Sanford. I lived in Oviedo, Florida. I was one of those kids who heard those stories, who was told that you can make a difference by getting educated and giving back and coming back home and making a difference. If you talk to Rusty Johnson, he'll tell you about the times that he spent with his dad when he talked to people of color who were in prison, when he came here and he pulled tobacco with people in South Carolina that looked like me. That the heart of the man who brought this to this commission, who led this effort, is a great person. Bill Maxwell is an Army veteran, another person who fought for this nation, but fought for Ocoee. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you as a part of that great trip. And when we got to Selma, we didn't just go across we drove across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but ladies and gentlemen, I think when Rusty Johnson's heart and all of our hearts changed is we stood on the very ground where John Lewis was hit as a young 20-something-year-old. We stood by his memorial. We embraced our history and our legacy. And it can't be done just by these commissioners. Commissioner Oliver reached out and asked for support around this proclamation for me. I think it's the greatest thing. The mayor did as well. But it can't just take these people that are sitting up here on the dais. It's going to take each and every single one of you. It's going to take that you step out and do something different. I can remember the story about the sign. It's going to ask that you bring your businesses and bring your heart and bring your resources and bring your talents to the city of Ocoee to make a difference. I just wanted to say thank you for being the friend that I thought you would be, the man that I honor you to be. And I have this other title that's called the Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army. And so as the Honorable Allie Lee Braswell Jr., I have a coin that we present to people when they go out and do excellence and they exhibit excellence. Mayor, I would ask that you accept my coin for what you've done to lead this city.
I will say that waited a long time. I was in the Army in 69, 71, didn't get one of these. I don't know if I was probably not real good at it, but I appreciate it. I think I was sitting here thinking, I've been thinking all week about different things, and it's not me, it's the citizens. It's the citizens that I've met, the citizens that I've been involved with, people that you run across, like we talk to other people in Montgomery. We sit around the table and discuss things of what happened and how it happened and why it happened. I did grow up in South Carolina till I come here, and I lived on a farm. I worked side by side every day with different people of other color. Never thought anything about it. My mother and father never preached to me that anything different, and we were all the same people. And that's the way I looked at it. That's the way I've always looked at it. And there is people in this town that has had a hard time changing, but they're changing. But the part of it is, if you come here, you'll find out where the heart's at. The heart's here, and the people will change. And it was tough. I've sat back and went back through some of the files and some of the records trying to reconcile myself to what happened and what didn't happen. It don't matter if one person lost their life, it was more than what it should have been. And my mother used to tell me, you do what's right by people and don't worry about what they do. You take care of yourself and you treat them like a human being, and that's what'll happen. So that's what I've always tried to do. And I do have a hard exterior, and I apologize. It's just something I grew up. Well, and I want to say that it's not just me doing this. It's been for the diversity board. It was an enlightening thing for me to get on it. I was on it years and years ago. I got off, and then this past year I got back on it, and it changed my life again. It has been a pure honor serving with these people. And there's times we all get discussions. We got discussions when we were on the trip. But it is a time in life that people have to learn and know what this place is like. And it is a good place. And if you live here, did Allie leave? Yeah, I've been hammering on him for a while to come live here in Ocoee. I'm trying to get him to move here, so that if any of you don't live in Ocoee, we got some nice houses here, and we'd be glad to have you. Our children play together, go to school together. Nicole's children and my grandchildren go to school together, and it's a joy to see this happen, and it's a joy in my heart to know that I had a little part in it. But I will tell you that it will always be a good place to live, and we want you here. And we want to make sure this goes on, and we will recognize. I will tell you, November 2nd, 2020, we will have that recognition day. But we're also, just a minute, Bill, I know how you are. We're going, and every year on November 2nd, we're going to have at our diversity board, they voted on it the other night. Every year we're going to have an open house where we can have open discussions. You can bring the kids, we'll have a display, and we'll have it probably, I hope, in our new lecture center that'll be back open, and we can have an open house for anybody and anywhere that wants to come and see what happened. We'll put it out in public and let them know where we've come and where we've gone. So, all right, Bill.
Mayor, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with the proclamation being submitted tonight, I've got one 30-second act I'd like to share with you to give you a progress report in terms of where we are in moving this project along. Right, Hannah, would you please do me the honor? The proclamation tells you that we will erect a memorial marker, the logos, the markers that we're looking for. The two markers.
That's it.
Okay. This is where we are right now in conjunction with the Department of Historical Science, the Historical Society of the State of Florida. We will submit to them, hopefully I will meet my deadline of 13 December. This will contain on the Ocoee Massacre side the very bare details of what took place. On the back, we will give you an overall synopsis that these type activities were not just common to Ocoee, but they were happening all over our country. I just want to share that with you to let you know that we are ongoing, we are working on it. The HRDB appointed a subcommittee called the Memorial Marker Committee, and as soon as we've gotten these completed right here, we'll be submitting the application to the Department of Historical Resources, State of Florida. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to, okay, all right, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. And
I felt it would be robbery if I didn't say anything because this is so near and dear to my heart. So if I get a little emotional, please just forgive me for that. I want to thank the commission and the mayor for your leadership, your HRDB board, for your leadership in pressing forward with this proclamation and moving forward to this day. This is something that I started looking at about 3 years ago when I ran for office, and I didn't know where it would go, but I was encouraged to keep running for office. I lost the first time, and I was encouraged to keep running. And when I got to the point where I ran again and I won, I had an obligation not only to my family and to the citizens that elected me here in District 4, I had an obligation to the Perry family and all those that passed away, that suffered their injury and death and was ran out. I had a blood debt that I had to pay. Not only myself, my family, we had a debt that we owed to the people that they didn't die in vain. So I come before you to talk a little bit about the post-Civil War era when almost 4 million slaves in the South were freed, and they experienced freedom, but they didn't know what freedom was because they were no longer tied to their masters, and they were just out there trying to figure out, what do I do now? I'm no longer picking cotton or doing anything like that. What do I do now? How do we help rebuild the South? And we have these slaves that left North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, coming into Florida. As Ms. McWhite stated, the Perry family left South Carolina, found themselves in Georgia, and to figure out, where do we go from here? One brother went east of Tallahassee, and another brother, as we know, July Perry, came here to Ocoee to live. Some people are a product of history where decisions were made. We as African Americans are a product of history that was chosen for us. We had no choice. We had to go along with whatever choices that was made for us. So they had to go along with those choices. They came to Orange County, they came to Ocoee with their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, and some just came with the shoes on their feet, and that's all they had. They settled here in Ocoee, and they poured out their blood, their sweat, their tears, the ownership of they wanted to own a little piece of happiness. Is this what they came for? They're looking for their happiness, the pursuit of happiness. That's what they were looking for. They built their homes here, their farms, their livelihood. They consumed 330 acres in this city. To come from slavery, from nothing, with just an idea, a thought. This country was built on an ideal. And every one of you guys know here, an ideal can be dangerous. And this idea that they had, the idea to live as equals, an idea to finally call someplace home, an idea of living in peace and prosperity, where that idea cost them their homes, their lives. It cost them their blood, their sweat, and their tears, just the ideals. Martin Luther King once said, wait. It rings in the ears of every African American with a piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always been never. Justice too long delayed is justice denied. However, today, November 20th, 2018, it brings in a new idea, an idea that we will no longer be known as a sundown town, but a sunrise city that welcomes all to come and live in peace, in harmony, and prosperity. Today starts a new birth. We start #1 Ocoee because we are one city. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have a little, we're gonna take a break before we go out there, and there's a few little refreshments outside. I want to say that it's been a great evening. It's a great time. Let's all think of this as a starting, but I want to say that I keep hearing the word faith, and I wanted to put another word in, believe. If you can believe, I want to do first of all, I'd like us to stand and have a moment of silence for the people of 1920 that was in that massacre. So if we could stand and do that. Before we go outside and take a break, I'd like to say that the sundown's gone and the sunrise is coming, and you can believe that and have faith in it, it'll happen. Thank you very much. We'll adjourn the meeting for about 15 minutes. Is that all right? Yeah, yeah. about them houses now. That's a good buy. The one next door's got a pool. It's $325.
I'll go make sure in the calendar, I don't know the month is getting.
Well, you can always put the pool in that one if they. It does have a bigger yard, though. It goes way back in the back. But I'm telling you, I haven't been in, but it's got the garage. Good, we're good to go. All right, we're back on the, we're back to comment from citizens. Anybody left want to make a comment? If not, we'll move on to the staff report.
I have nothing, Mayor.
All right, commissioners' announcements. Commissioner Oliver.
Founders Day was just wonderful. I just wanted to talk about Founders Day. We had an awesome time at Founders Day. It was great, and I want to encourage everyone to next time we have an event like that, to please encourage your neighbors to come out. You missed a great treat if you didn't come, but it was a wonderful showing, and I'm definitely going to be a cheerleader of that event moving forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Firstner? No comments. All right, Commissioner Wilson?
Not this time.
Commissioner Grogan?
Nothing.
All right, I got a couple announcements to read real quick. In observance of Thanksgiving Day, City Hall will be closed on Thursday, November the 22nd, and Friday, November the 23rd. No trash collection is scheduled for Thursday. The City of Ocoee and Ocoee Lions Club will present the 38th Annual Ocoee Christmas Parade on Saturday, December the 1st at 1 p.m. The Ocoee Christmas Parade will start at the intersection of McGuire Road and Enterprise Street and end at Bill Breeze Park. If it rains, the parade will be held on Sunday, December the 2nd at 2 p.m. In lieu of entry fees, parade participants have been asked to bring unwrapped toys that will be donated to the Ocoee Police Department's Toy for Kids in Need. Just as a reminder, the City of Ocoee's annual holiday tree lighting event, scheduled for December 1st, has been canceled because of the ongoing downtown Ocoee revitalization project. All right. Consent agenda.
Motion,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'd like to table item 6.
Table it or pull it?
Well, pull it, but for a date unknown yet to bring it back. There's some discussions that we'd like to.
All right,
Oh, okay.
all right. All right,
If you want.
do I hear a motion
Okay.
for,
I'll make a motion, pulling item number 6 for a later date.
all right?
Does that sound right?
Right.
We just- All right, do we need a vote on that? Yes. All right, let's vote on it. Now, wait a minute, did I hear a second?
I second it.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Oliver, a motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Let's vote. Pull it, yes. All right. All right, now I need a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda minus the pulled number 6.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Firstner. Motion made to pass the consent agenda with item 6 off. Let's vote. Motion carries unanimously.
And Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I did speak really briefly with Commissioner Oliver. I spoke with Commissioner Grogan earlier on number 6. We were trying to have the agent of record from our insurance, they're our agent of record for all our insurance, but they weren't available to come tonight. If there's any specifics you'd like to talk about on item 6 before we bring it back to the next meeting, please just get with me or give me a call.
Oh, okay, all right. So you gonna have the agent?
We'll have the agent of record here,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All
and
right.
they can explain exactly
Okay.
what they're recommending with
All
that
right.
change.
All righty. Anything else, Gene? Is that good? Okay. All right. Public hearing, Top Gun, Cheer, 651 South Blueford Avenue.
Mayor, city staff is asking to pull that item or bring it back on December 4th.
All right. Do we need a motion on that? Okay. That item will be coming back on December the 4th, the Top Gun Cheer. All right, first reading of ordinances. First reading of ordinance, amending the City of Ocoee Municipal General Employees Retirement Trust Fund, reflecting changes for compliance with the Internal Revenue Code.
All right, this is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida relating to the City of Ocoee Municipal General Employees Retirement Trust Fund adopted by ordinance number 2009-20 as subsequently amended, amending section 1 definitions by amending the definitions of actuarial equivalent, credited service, and spouse, amending section 4 finances and fund management, amending section 6 benefit amounts and eligibility, amending section 9 optional forms and benefits, amending section 14 maximum pension, amending section 24 reemployment after retirement, amending section 25 deferred retirement option plan, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
All right, that will be, second reading will be on December the 4th, and the discussions for it, anybody in the public will be then. All right, number 15, first reading of ordinance, repealing and replacing chapter 78, fire prevention and emergency medical responses.
This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Ocoee, Florida, repealing in its entirety Chapter 78 of the City of Ocoee Code of Ordinances entitled Fire Prevention Code, Local Amendments, creating a new Chapter 78 entitled Fire Prevention and Emergency Medical Response, authorizing the fire department to serve as the primary and sole provider of emergency medical response and transport services, authorizing the City Commission to adopt fees for emergency medical response and transport services and to readopt fees for permits, re-inspections, and firework displays, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing an effective date.
All right, second reading and public hearing will be on schedule for December the 4th. Same thing, public can make the public comments there. All right, go to number 16, first reading of ordinance for VMG Estates, 815 Clear Corner, Ocoee Road, North Lakewood Avenue.
This is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately 3.89 acres located on the east side of North Lakewood Avenue, 103 feet north of Burnt Tree Court, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner, finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, and providing for an effective date.
All right, that same thing, the second reading will be on December the 4th, public hearing. Citizens will have a chance to enter in public comments. 17, first reading of ordinance for American property, 403 2nd Street, annexation and rezoning. You're gonna read both of them?
Yep. This is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately .39 acres located on the east side of 2nd Street, 200 feet north of West Silver Star Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, and providing for an effective date. This is the rezoning ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Orange County R1 single-family dwelling to Ocoee R1A single-family dwelling on certain real property containing approximately .39 acres located on the east side of 2nd Street, 200 feet north of West Silver Star Road, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
All right, same thing. The second reading will be December the 4th. Public hearing will be open then. 18, first reading of ordinance for City of Ocoee Center Street Pond, 715 Center Street, annexation and rezoning.
This is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately 3.58 acres located on the south side of Center Street, 525 feet east of Orange Avenue, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, and providing for an effective date. This is the rezoning ordinance for the property. An ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Orange County R1 low-density residential to Ocoee R1A low-density residential on certain real property containing approximately 3.58 acres located on the south side of Center Street, 525 feet east of Orange Avenue, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
All right, same thing. Second reading will be December the 4th. The public will have a chance to speak then. Number 19, first reading of ordinance to amend Article 7 of the Land Development Code, LDC, for the citywide floodplain management ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, amending the City of Ocoee Land Development Code, repealing Part 1A of Article 7 of Chapter 180 of the City of Ocoee Land Development Code relating to environmental protection, adopting a new Part 1A of Article 7 of Chapter 180, City of Ocoee Land Development Code, entitled Floodplain Management, adopting flood hazard maps, designating a floodplain administrator, adopting procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas and for other purposes, providing for applicability, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Same thing. December the 4th would be the second reading. I'm going to open for public hearing. We're going to move to the second reading of ordinances, public hearing. Number 20, second reading of ordinance for alley property, 735 Center Street, annexation and rezoning project. You going to go ahead?
For the record, Ginger Corliss, I'm actually representing Mike Rummer tonight for the Development Services. And the applicant for the 735 Center Street annexation is actually requesting annexation and rezoning from the Orange County R1 single-family dwelling to R1A single-family dwelling in order to connect to the city's potable water system. The application has been reviewed by staff, DRC, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission, and found consistent with all state and local regulations. Staff recommends approval of the proposed annexation and the rezoning from R1 single-family dwelling of Orange County to R1A.
All right, want to read off?
Sure. This is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately .68 acres located on the south side of Center Street, 450 feet east of Orange Avenue, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, providing or repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for an effective date.
All right. Did you do it the rezoning too?
Let me read the
We'll
rezoning
do-
one.
Yeah.
This is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Orange County R1 low-density residential to Ocoee R1A single-family dwelling on certain real property containing approximately .68 acres located on the south side of Center Street, 450 feet east of Orange Avenue, pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding such zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
All right, what we're going to do, I need a motion for the second reading of public hearing. I'm sorry, open it for public hearing. Let's go back. Anybody?
I make a motion that we adopt the ordinance for the alley property of 735 Center Street, annex and rezoning project.
We're going to do them separately. We'll do the first one, annex.
One at a time.
Oh,
Annexation first.
annexation, okay.
All right.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Oliver, seconded by Commissioner Wilson. Any more comments? If not, let's vote. Now you can do the zoning, Commissioner.
I make a motion that we adopt the Center Street annexation and rezoning project for the AX 061761 and RZ 170602.
All right, and that's a motion made by Commissioner Arthur, here, second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wilson. All right, let's vote. All right, now we're going to number 21. Discussion of an unsolicited offer for Meritage Homes to purchase plus 9 acres of city-owned property near the intersection of A.D. Mims Road and Clark Road for 1.1. This is just a different company. We had one that, I didn't see you standing there, sir. I'll let you tell what it is.
Sir.
Sorry about that,
Thank you.
Assistant City Manager.
Craig Shadricks. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll try to be very brief. This is the city-owned property at the corner of 80 Mims and Clark Road. As you all recall, we received an unsolicited offer from Beezer Homes back in April, and you authorized the city manager to negotiate a contract in good faith with them, which we attempted to do over a long period of time, and unfortunately, we're not able to come to terms. Therefore, the attorney representing us in that matter, Ed Story, sent them a letter terminating the negotiations. We have since received an unsolicited offer from Meritage Homes for $1.1 million to purchase plus or minus 9 acres. And the same request is before you tonight on this one. I will remind you that, sale and dispensation of real property of the city under the charter requires an appraisal if it's valued at more than $100,000, which we have a good appraisal still. Our appraisal for that piece of the property was $1,105,000. So the offer is right at what it appraised for. And so tonight we're asking that you authorize the city manager, again, to negotiate a contract in good faith with Meritage Homes. Reminding you that there's still approximately 3.5 acres of commercial in the corner that the city would still own. And we would bring, upon reaching agreeable terms, we'd bring that back to the commission and we'd set a public hearing for you to decide to move forward with the sale.
All right, one quick comment. I will say that I told Rob, I talked to, I guess it was Channel 9 in Cox.
Right.
They had a comment about it, about us on their appraisal and about selling that. And then I sent them a comment back that we had still kept the 3.5 to 4 acres of commercial that would make the difference in the money up to what the other was. It was just part of it. They didn't have the whole story. So I just wanted you to know up front that I did send an email back to them stating that they only had part of the deal. So everything's good. All right, I need a motion or?
Oh, I have a question.
Any comments?
Yes. When we start talking about developing anywhere near Clark Road, I'm coming back to the same thing.
Traffic.
The road.
Yeah.
The road.
Okay.
The road. The road.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we're considering in our negotiations with anyone that's buying any property or developing any property around or near Clark Road to help widen that road?
Well, that's a multifaceted answer, but I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest condensed version of it. That intersection at 80 Mims and Clark Road, there's two things at play here. One is the level of service of Clark, and the other is in approving a development of 64 residential lots, which this offer contemplates. They have to do a traffic study and analysis, and it is our job and our traffic consultant's job to ensure that they minimize the impacts by requiring any on-site improvements necessary to mitigate the traffic impacts there at that intersection at 80 Mims and Clark. There are bigger plans down the line, which I'm not sure, but I think Mr. Rumor may have already spoken with you about some of those. As far as Clark and its long-term projection to be widened further north of that site. But as far as approving a development there, they have to comply with the Land Development Code's transportation requirements, and if necessary, they will have to contribute a proportionate share towards an improvement at the intersection, which does, I agree, back up. That light does back up during peak times. And that was an issue I think some of the residents raised when the school was proposed on that site also. So to answer your question, that's something that that we will be looking at as part of the development process. If we do get to a contract and do sell it, they'll have to come in and submit a site plan and a rezoning application because it's a PUD, during which time they will be required to do a traffic study and analysis, and we will determine then if any off-site improvements are required, that they'd be required to contribute a proportionate share to.
And in all those developments that will happen from now on down through there, we'll be putting the impact fee money for the roads into that process of improving that road from past that at the firehouse all the way out to
Claricorner Court.
Claricorner Road.
Okay.
And there's other projects going to be coming along, so all those impact fees will add to that where we can do that road.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I
And
would
there's
like.
red light working to go at,
Yes. Ingram.
Ingram. Also at,
Ingram and
McCormick.
Claricorner Court.
yeah, but the other one is the one we talked about, and you brought up too before, is, I can't think of the road.
Hackney Prairie.
Hackney Prairie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, okay?
So
All right.
again,
Yes, sir.
we start talking about these
Yeah.
things, I'm looking for dates, not, I mean, I keep hearing future, but I would like
Well-
to hear some, 2019, 2020, give me something to
I
to tell
can't do
people,
that right
something to
now.
say, hey.
I can't give you dates, but we'd be happy to sit down with any of the residents. Staff could sit down if you want us to. We have a professional team of transportation people. A single family or a townhome subdivision on that property has already been factored in kind of to the network there.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of information that we'd love to share and get out. And we also are very excited because we're going to be developing a truer sense of the term capital improvements program, which we do have one, but we're going to be doing a transportation capital improvements program. Myself, Ms. Corliss here, Michael Roomer, and a couple of our consultants are putting together a grand ultimate network plan that's a 10-year plan. And we're probably going to be workshopping that with the commission later this year before we get into budget planning. And we're also going to be looking at other funding opportunities for some of those improvements, such as state and federal opportunities. But that is something I want you to understand that's very important to us, and you should keep bringing that up whenever something like that happens. But as far as the development of that property goes, it's not going to be enough to trigger a major overhaul of Clark Road, even though we agree we need to be able to plan Clark to accommodate the growth that's coming in the area. But the truth of the matter is the Land Development Code requires that you have adequate trip management, and we have a consultant that does that. And if they meet the code standard, then we have no choice but to recommend approval of that. You get into a lot of this. I could talk for hours, and Rob's
don't
going
do
to
that.
give me a face here
I
about that. But
want to make a comment to it, because I'm with you, because just in doing what we're doing at Fuller's Crossroad with the intersection improvements, it's going to take almost a year. So I think what we do is we understand the assistant city manager and our staff, we work towards design ahead of time, as we know what's coming into development, and we can work on the design ahead of time and not have to wait till that time and point. And I know Rob wouldn't want to hear this, but if we had to borrow it from the reserve, we pay it back out of them impact fees, and maybe look at doing that.
Which is possible.
Well, yeah, so that way we can
Plan ahead.
Why are you looking at me? I never like to borrow money. I was gonna say, you look at me as like contingency
I
and
know,
reserves. It's
but I
like-
know, but the reserves are citizens' money. Reserves are citizens' money, and we've had great years, and Rob's done a great job, and the staff with that reserve fund. Not to take it away, I just said, we did the same thing, we borrowed it back, put it back, and things are changing, the incomes, our ad valorem is down, but our economic development's going up with the taxes, so makes a lot of difference.
Well,
Okay.
I don't think the citizens want any granular,
No, I know.
information about it as of yet. It's just mostly, just conversational
I think-
type things in passing, and, you're in Publix, and, hey, what are you guys doing for Clark Road? These are the questions that they're asking, so, again, as they start seeing different things going on,
Right.
these are the questions that's happening, that they're
Right.
getting. So I just want to be able to
Absolutely.
tell them something, or at least it's always on our radar that
We can help
as
you
we
out.
start developing around the area, that the widening of that road is always on our radar.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Mayor, just a brief comment. I think you'll remember when we were dealing with Beazer, I had sent you, I can't remember if it was an email or a copy of the memo I sent, discontinuing negotiations with them. And some of the things where I felt, they were incompatible with some of the representations that they originally made when they came forth and gave us the unsolicited offer. So unless there's any consensus to handle this differently, we'll handle it the same way between myself and Craig and the city attorney. If suddenly things are changing and they want to hold up the property development and keep it and be able to transfer it for over the next 2 years, we're not going to be looking at that. We want to sell the property and we want it to develop and get on the tax rolls. So we'll treat it exactly the same as the last one unless anyone has an issue with that.
All right, before I make the motion, I know it's not a public hearing, but Mr. Atkins, I'm gonna give you, you want to talk?
I just want to ask a quick question.
All right, come up. All right, come up. Give you 2 minutes. Maybe 3.
The math getting that up to me. Being an auditor, I was curious about it. That's why I was asking. So it's to my understanding that the 9 acres that we originally purchased for $3.5 million in December of 29th of December of 2006, 8.5 of that, which would leave a half acre left.
No. We purchased 13. We purchased 13 acres.
It doesn't say everything on
It's
there.
9 plus 3.
9 plus 3. So the balance is the 3.5. Do we have an appraisal on the balance left over?
No, the commercial will be double what the other was.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was
Yes,
the
sir.
question I had. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Should we say plus and minus? The way
Yeah.
it's exactly-
No, it'll be more,
It does in the staff
believe me.
report.
All right. All right, now can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson, here's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Forster. All right, no more comments? Let's vote. All right, hey, woo. All right, staff action items.
I don't really have anything, Mayor. I know sometimes, we get into December and we start talking
I'm
about
gonna
the
bring
second
that up.
meeting. Okay, so if you'll bring it up, that's the only
But
thing.
if
I
you
would
want to do it,
say.
you go ahead.
The only thing I was saying was, we have a lot of second readings coming on the first meeting in December. So if you think that you want to cancel the meeting on the 18th because of its proximity to Christmas, it's probably better that we would do that now and know not to put any first readings on the December 4th meeting.
So we have nothing except these readings
These will be
tonight.
the-
We got
the
a lot of
fourth.
them tonight, but there's nothing coming up.
There's
The fourth
nothing that we
will have
couldn't
this
rearrange.
stuff.
Right, but the
But after
18th,
that, yeah.
I'll make a motion,
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson, here's a second.
cancel 18th.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Grogan. Let's vote. All right, no meeting on the 18th. Advertise that on the,
We'll do that.
TV
And
channel.
that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
all right, Commissioner Grogan,
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
I would just like to say one thing, as Thanksgiving is approaching, and after tonight, I think we in Ocoee have so much to be thankful for. And also, so tonight I thought was very enlightening, and thank you for the presentation and all the information that a lot of folks don't know about in Ocoee. A lot of people moved here and don't know the history of Ocoee, so I just feel very thankful for all the information, and I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and please, a very safe Thanksgiving. A lot of people will be on the roads. We'd like you to be back here for our next meeting.
Amen. All
Thank
right,
you.
Commissioner first.
I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and let's look forward to a safe and prosperous new year coming up.
Commissioner Oliver.
Nothing at this time.
All right, I got one item, and I know two people probably not gonna like this. Commissioner Wilson and the city manager.
I'm afraid what this is
I'm
about
fixing to ask
now.
for some money.
Oh, no.
Our high school band, which is great, they do the jazz thing in the fall, in the spring, and they left this morning for Chicago. They're gonna represent us in this Christmas parade. They raised all the money except for $2,000. I would like to see us take $1,000 out of contingency and give it to the high school band when they get back. Do I hear a motion? Contingency is $51,500.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Grogan,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Oliver. Any more discussion? Let's vote.
I was gonna say begrudgingly, it's not against the projects, it is the contingency. It is not against the projects. I am the fiscal, very
Motion carried
fiscally
unanimously.
responsible.
Did you vote?
I voted yes, I
Okay.
just
All
was,
right.
you know, I.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Hey, listen, everybody, I think tonight was a great meeting.
Yes, it was.
It put some enlightenment on everybody, and I hope people watch it on TV and see. And you're right about the people, some of the people don't know, and I think we need to let them know, and that's why we're gonna have that open house every year on November the 2nd. At the Diversity Board, we'll have it open house where we can let people enlighten them and let the new people in town know, and we'll have discussions. And I also think that we ought to talk to the school and see if they'll let us do a class on our city history and what we've had here through the high school.
I've already started working.
All right, and I think that would be something we could all take part in, take our turns at it, and I think it would be a good way to teach it. And I think history and civics and school has gone by the wayside. So,
And I'd like to thank, I mean, July Perry's, is it great niece?
yeah.
For information. I mean, that was very enlightening. So
Yeah.
I think everyone, it was great tonight. It was wonderful what we learned tonight. Thank you.
And everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and be careful on the road. Thank you.